To the show that's the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink, especially groupthink, which is everywhere. Avoid it at all costs. Have a great night from Washington. Sean Hannity is right now. Hey, Sean.
All right, Tucker, that video you just showed was really scary. I didn't see this person crossing till the last second. Very scary.
Neither did they.
All right, good show, Tucker. Thank you. And
Thanks.
Welcome to Hannity. We have so much breaking news tonight. And the head of fake news CNN, the soon-to-be scandal-plagued Jeff Zucker. Okay, you want to take pot shots at Fox News, Jeff? Let's go. We're going to unveil our new nickname for the Bleep Hole Network. Plus, we're going to call out the hypocrisy of the media's new Stormy Daniels 24/7, 365 obsession. The same people that ignored Bill Clinton's accusers for decades. Oh, and by the way, in those cases, it wasn't always consensual, was it? And also breaking right now, H.R. McMaster is out and John Bolton is in. Good news as National Security Advisor. Also new tonight, President Trump's lead lawyer in the Russia witch hunt is now stepping aside in an apparent move. It means the president, he is getting ready to fight back and fight back hard against this corrupt special counsel. Our investigation into the investigators continues tonight. And the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Bob Goodlatte, he has now issued a subpoena for the DOJ to send over documents on the rigged Clinton email investigation, on FISA abuses, Andrew McCabe's firing, and Comey's firing. Now, the House Intel Committee has also announced their Russia probe is over and votes to publicly release the GOP's final report. There's new information in that. This report finds no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. It exposes deep state leaking, FISA abuse, and blasts the former director of national security, James Clapper, for giving inconsistent testimony, just like McCabe, about contacts with the media. Is that lying under oath? Also, a stunning investigative report tonight from Sarah Carter, how the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and his top prosecutor, you know, the guy that they say is the pit bull for Mr. Mueller, Andrew Weissman, they're directly tied to two of the biggest scandals in FBI history. The rest of the media is ignoring this. And also an exclusive tonight. You've heard about the Uranium One informant. He is now speaking on camera right here tonight for the first time about being interviewed by the FBI as part of an investigation into the Clinton Foundation. Yeah, there's a real investigation going on. The media is talking about Stormy. Now, The Hill's John Solomon has that exclusive report and those details. That and so much more in our breaking news opening monologue. All right, but we begin tonight with more fake news from CNN. This time it is spewing from the lips of the Clinton News Network president. His name is Jeff Zucker. And according to The Hollywood Reporter, Zucker recently blasting Fox News' quote, a propaganda machine and state-run TV. Now, by the way, Fox News, like every newspaper in the country, they have a sports page, they have a news page, a gossip page, and they have an editorial page. Oh, opinion programming. He even went on to say that this network does, quote, a disservice to the country. Now, this is coming from the man whose so-called cable news station, CNN, is literally nicknamed the Bleep Hole Network because they have an obsession with the word. You might remember this.
Is there a difference if the president said hole or house? Do you think these countries are holes?
Donald Trump has turned the Oval Office into a hole.
Holers built this country 110 years ago.
In addition to the president's comments yesterday, a few more.
Whole countries.
Hole.
Whole. Whole. Whole country. Rich, do you have any example of any whole country that the president referred to that is predominantly Caucasian? Holers. Holes. Holers. I work for holder. Hole. I'm proud to be a holder.
I never in a million years thought I would be saying hole on television.
Jeff Zucker's Bleep Hole Network, well, they also have a new obsession. Basically, soft-core pornography. From the nonstop coverage of Stormy Daniels to the constant speculation about an alleged affair between Trump and a porn star. If you're looking for 24/7, never-ending, looped-around, porn-related news, CNN fake news, they have you covered. Take a look.
This could be the last nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
Stormy Daniels is causing stormy weather.
Porn star Stormy Daniels claims President Trump broke the law, had her bullied.
Does Stormy Daniels have the president's number? It sure seems that way.
President Trump might have met his match with Stormy Daniels.
How is Stormy weathering this?
Stormy speaks.
We're hearing quite a bit from Stormy Daniels.
Stormy, in her own words, isn't going anywhere.
Stormy Daniels has a good lawyer. The porn star Stormy Daniels was telling the truth.
Stormy Daniels is on a tear.
Quick preview of Stormy Daniels' interview this Sunday.
Breaking news that Stormy Daniels.
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 The reason he can't engage with Stormy Daniels is because she's got his number.
It's about an alleged affair, not proven, and of course, very different from Bill Clinton and Juanita Broaddrick, Kathleen Willey, and of course, Paula Jones. But CNN's obsessive 24/7 coverage doesn't end with Stormy Daniels. They're also now giving a former Playboy playmate, Karen McDougal. They're giving her plenty of airtime. And again, we're talking about potentially alleged consensual relationships. And we're going to compare how they covered, assaults and exposing oneself and even rape with Bill Clinton. All this effort, of course, in this case, to destroy Donald Trump. Take a look.
So when was the next communication?
I believe we talked right away on the phone, and I think we talked for about a week on the phone before his next visit to LA. And that was his birthday, which I think is June 12th.
Would he call you?
He would call me, I would call him, vice versa.
CNN's new obsession. And we might have a brand new name for their leader, their chief, their CEO, Jeff Zucker, the porn king of cable news. And of course, porn king Jeff Zucker and his colleagues over at the Bleep Hole Network, they're not alone in their stormy obsession. NBC, ABC, CBS, and others also featuring saturated coverage of this story. Now, predictably, the same level of media interest was not present back in the early 1990s when then President Bill Clinton was accused of having multiple extramarital affairs and even worse, engaging in serious instances of sexual misconduct. By the way, in the case of Jennifer Flowers, she was proven right, but I remember James Carville, he worked and he was one of the people talking about it, or dragging a dollar through a trailer park about Paula Jones. Remember Paula Jones? She accused Bill Clinton of literally pulling down his pants and exposing himself. And according to the Media Research Center, in the first 3 days of that scandal, ABC provided a whopping 16 seconds of coverage. NBC, CBS, they ignored it. And next, there's the case of Kathleen Willey. And she said that Bill Clinton groped, grabbed, fondled, touched, kissed her against her will inside the Oval Office. That story breaks. How's your fake news handle it? ABC ignores it. NBC, CBS gave it a whopping 34 seconds of coverage. Again, according to the Media Research Center. CNN, meanwhile, they dedicated 26 seconds of coverage during their evening newscast. Then, of course, you have the serious allegation of rape. Juanita Broaddrick. And I interviewed Juanita Broaddrick, one of the toughest interviews I ever did. This surfaced first in 1998. Media Research Center tells us ABC, CBS totally ignored the breaking story. NBC aired 7 minutes of coverage, but not before initially spiking its pre-taped interview with Juanita Broaddrick. Now, this proves what I have been saying about journalism since, 2007 or 8? It's dead and buried in this country. We'll have more on this later in the show. Also tonight, John Dowd, the lead lawyer for President Trump's legal team for dealing with Robert Mueller's witch hunt, has resigned. And just a few hours ago, Fox has confirmed that Victoria Tunsing will be joining the president's legal team. And President Trump is also breaking news tonight, saying that he would like to do a sit-down with the special counsel. Let's delve into this.
Thank you very much. Would you like to testify in special counsel Robert Mueller, sir? Thank you.
I'm sure the president would, and my advice to the president, you got to be very careful. I've been warning everybody about Robert Mueller and his merry band of Democratic donors. We know for a fact Robert Mueller is conducting a biased, partisan, totally flawed investigation. He has gone way beyond his mandate. Mueller's original purpose, it was supposed to be about finding evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, but we haven't found it in over a year, almost a year and a half now. Now, that's why he was appointed. It is not what he is doing. As constitutional law expert and liberal Democrat, Professor Alan Dershowitz of Harvard, he is pointing out the special counsels exist to bring about charges, justify their existence. Doesn't matter if it is at all connected to what they're supposed to be investigating. They have to do all of this to justify their existence at an enormous cost, not only to the American taxpayers, all of you, but also to the culture and society. Now, this Mueller witch hunt has been going on for over a year, and so far he's found nothing regarding Trump-Russia collusion. And the president, by the way, has every reason to be upset. And here's why. Mueller's team has more Democratic donors than a liberal Hollywood fundraiser. And not one of Mueller's partisan witch hunters donated to Trump. Every single Republican in Washington not named Donald Trump would crack under this kind of pressure. So yes, completely understandable when you appoint a team that donates to Obama, the DNC, Hillary Clinton, and they're all going after one guy and not one person that donated to Trump. Well, of course the president wants to fight back because the special counsel from day one has been abusively biased, and many on that team have questionable ethics. They have horrific backgrounds, and they're out to destroy him. By the way, saying I'm not guilty, that's how any innocent person would act. Now, Rod Rosenstein, he has stacked the deck against President Trump by appointing his buddy, Robert Mueller, and he has conflicts himself. And then James Comey admitted he leaked the memos to get the special counsel appointed, and of course, it happened. This is one big, giant, incestuous, deep state cabal that is trying to unseat a duly elected president. All right, we'll have more on that. Now, also breaking this hour, H.R. McMaster's has resigned as the National Security Advisor, and he will be replaced by John Bolton. This is a huge improvement. We'll have more on that. And tonight, the House Judiciary Chairman, Bob Goodlatte, has issued a subpoena to the DOJ demanding documents on this fixed Clinton email investigation, which never was an investigation, also about severe FISA abuse and on Andrew McCabe's firing. And Chairman Goodlatte, he notes in a press release, and this is something we have been reporting on, Congress has now requested 1.2 million DOJ FBI documents related to the Clinton investigation. The Inspector General has them. Why won't they turn them over? The Hill's reporting that Chairman Goodlatte is trying to determine whether or not Comey lied under oath. He's requesting those documents as well. And so far, Congress has only received of the 1.2 million, 3,000. Well, that sounds like obstruction. That doesn't sound like the wheels of justice or equal justice under the law. The DOJ is stonewalling. They're preventing Congress from conducting their constitutional job, which is oversight. Remember, Rod Rosenstein sucking up to Paul Ryan in the final hours. Please don't let Congress have access to the truth about FISA abuses. And we all know the Clinton email investigation was a sham because Comey struck Lisa Page, McCabe, and probably Loretta Lynch, all part of putting the fix in. And on FISA abuses, the memos have exposed that the FBI and DOJ used what? Unverified, because they're not true. Clinton bought and paid for dossier Russian lies to get a FISA judge to get a warrant to spy on Carter Page, Trump associate, which then allows them to spy on the entire Trump campaign. And we know the bulk of the FISA application, according to the Grassley-Graham memo, was made up of the phony Clinton dossier full of Russia and Russian government lies and propaganda. And as Andrew McCabe testified, without no dossier, there never would have even been a FISA warrant application. And as for McCabe, his comments after being fired, well, could put his buddy James Comey in serious legal jeopardy. Remember, in a statement, McCabe writes in part, the OIG investigation is focused on information I chose to share with a reporter through my public affairs officer and a legal counselor. As deputy director, I was one of only a few people who had the authority to do that. And it was not a secret. It took place over several days, and others, including the director, were aware of the interaction with the reporter. By the way, he's not addressing lying under oath. So according to McCabe, Comey knew he was leaking information to the media, which is in part why McCabe got fired, and then lying under oath also contributed. What McCabe is saying now is very different from what James Comey said back in May of 2017. Who do you believe, Comey or McCabe? We'll let you decide.
Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Question 2 on relatively related. Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
Now, you gotta wonder if Georgie Stephanopoulos over at ABC, Clinton's BFF, and the liberals on The View, and Stephen Colbert, and Fake Jake over at CNN Fake News and Rachel Maddow. You think they're going to ask Mr. Deep State James Comey about any of this? We're not going to hold our breath. But James Comey's welcome on the show. Our invitation continues. Now, what is becoming more apparent by the day is how the Deep State is fighting back as they continue to get exposed. They're not liking what is now happening and what we are exposing on this show. The perfect example is former Obama CIA Director John Brennan. He is now trying to malign President Trump with a brand new conspiracy theory. Let's take a look.
I think he's afraid of the president of Russia.
Why?
I think one can speculate as to why. That the Russians may have something on him personally that they could always roll out and make his life more difficult. Clearly, I think it's important for us to be able to improve relations with Russia. But the fact that he has had this fawning attitude toward Mr. Putin has not said anything negative about him. I think continues to say to me that he does have something to fear.
Great. Now, he's a known liar, but the media just parrots Brennan's talking points. Let's look at this.
A former CIA director who's worked for presidents on both sides of the aisle is deeply concerned.
It's so clear at this point that Vladimir Putin and his associates, somebody has something on Donald Trump.
The big question we're asking today, why does this president feel the way he does about Vladimir Putin?
That may be something that turns the key in the Russia probe, is figuring out why this president is so deferential to Putin and to Russia, and if there is some sort of compromat that they have on him.
President Trump has been 50 times harder on Russia than Obama ever was. And he's about to take the legs out of Vladimir Putin's economy. And he's not whispering, "Oh, tell Vladimir after the election I'll have more flexibility." Brennan's also threatening President Trump. Let's take a look at his tweet. When the full extent of your venality, moral turpitude, and political corruption becomes known, you will take your place as a disgraced demagogue in the dustbin of history. You may scapegoat Andy McCabe, but you will not destroy America. America will triumph over you. Okay, John Brennan, who voted for a communist for president, a deep state swamp rat who's losing his mind, and all of his friends now are being exposed. Here's a little Hannity history lesson on Brennan that the media won't tell you. As I said, he admitted to voting for, quote, a Communist Party candidate. How did you ever become the CIA director? You have to wonder. And maybe Robert Mueller should see if he's ever colluded with the Russians. And that's not all. The New York Post has reported that the House Intel Committee is investigating John Brennan and his ties to the Clinton bought and paid for dossier. And the same committee is now looking into whether Brennan committed perjury when he testified under oath, like his buddy McCabe, because he claimed to have no idea who paid for that dossier. And the Post also reporting that John Brennan briefed members of Congress, including former Democratic Senator Harry Reid, about that phony dossier. And if you remember, Reid then put out a statement after meeting with Brennan days after or before the election and referenced the dossier because Brennan told him. So Brennan is dirty, political, and corrupt as they come. And now he's lashing out because we're all finding out who he really is. We have even more breaking news to tell you about. The House Intel Committee has put an end to this Russia investigation, 14 months, and they will had a vote to release to the public, the Republican members' final report. And the House Intel Committee released a summary of the key findings today. Here are the highlights. After 14 months, interviews with over all these witnesses, the committee found no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. One, so the liberal media, all you Democrats, have been lying to the American people. James Clapper, number two, former Obama Director of National Intelligence, fake news CNN contributor. Well, he provided inconsistent testimony about his contacts with the media. I guess Comey's going to get hired next, and then Brennan. And who knows, maybe they'll hire Stormy. And by the way, if members of the partisan press are watching, we first reported this last week. It's called investigative journalism, real news. You guys might want to try it sometime instead of spinning these woo-woo-woo conspiracy theories. And by the way, this wouldn't be the first time Clapper has lied to Congress. Back in May of 2013, let's watch Clapper lie. Take a look.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
Oh, Clapper was lying through his teeth right there. Well, that seems to be the standard operating procedure for all these Obama deep state actors. All right, point three. The committee found, House Intel Committee, zero evidence of President Trump's pre-campaign business dealings resulting in any kind of collusion. Point 4, they conclude no evidence that Trump associates were involved with WikiLeaks publishing stolen Democratic emails. This is another liberal media fantasy that's getting shot down. By the way, with all the countries that hacked into Hillary's server, who knows who got those who gave it to WikiLeaks? There's one of a dozen choices. Here's my prediction. Pretty easy to get this one right. The rest of the liberal media is not going to report this tonight because it proves them to be liars and phony in their quest for journalism and truth. This is all a disinformation campaign, and it's gone on way too long. Finally tonight, I know I'm going long, Sarah Carter, brand new news reporting, headline, Robert Mueller, Andrew Weissman, the FBI and the mob. Sarah detailing how both Mueller, Weissman are directly involved in two of the biggest scandals in FBI history. When Mueller was an acting U.S. attorney in Boston in the 80s, he was involved in the FBI's corrupt, highly unethical relationship with the infamous murderer, mobster Whitey Bulger. 4 men ended up being framed for murder, sent to jail. 2 of them died in jail. Then it resulted in over $100 million in damages to the 2 that lived. And then there's Mueller's pit bull, Andrew Weissman. The rotten apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. He's the guy in a 1990s organized crime case. Weissman was reprimanded by a judge for withholding exculpatory evidence. And his powerful friend, later were out there to get him out of trouble. We also told you about Weissman's hard-charging tactics. In the Enron case, tens of thousands of people lost their jobs at Anderson Accounting. 4 Merrill executives go to jail. That case was overturned, 9-0 against him. All of this information is shocking. That's Mueller's team. But given what we know about Mueller and his pit bull, Weissman, it's now par for the course. This is a national disgrace what's happening. Joining us with reaction, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, civil rights criminal defense attorney David Schoen, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Sarah, let's start with you and your investigative report.
Well, I think what we see here, and this is the point that I hope people understand about these cases in the past. This is what is predictable in the future, and I think the president obviously wants to talk to Mueller. He knows he's innocent. He wants to tell him what he knows, but this is the problem, Sean. All you have to do is look at these cases in the past. Innocent people ended up either pleading guilty or they were found guilty. They spent their life in prison. And then they had to wait until they were exonerated. There is a very serious moment here where the president has to take a step back and think about what he is going to do. Because there were cases, we saw it with the Weissman case in New York, and we see it with the case in Boston.
But politically, he can't, Sarah, because the media will run that. This is the most corrupt team ever put together in any investigation I've ever heard of.
Well, it is, but what you're looking at right now is an extraordinary, visceral hate by people that want to either see this president impeached or drag his name through the mud. And I think that at this point in time, all that we can do is continue to push the stories out, continue to push the truth out, so that the American people understand what's going on, and more importantly, so that the president and the administration understand what's going on. But there has to be a very serious consideration for what's happened in the past and what could possibly happen with this special counsel.
All our media call it, he's beyond reproach. That's a total crock. He's not. He's about as credible as Stormy to me.
Well,
Bob Mueller ruined the credibility of his own and the integrity of his own investigation when he hired clearly a very partisan team to go after and destroy Donald Trump. Now, the good news is DeGeneva and Tenzing are now in there defending the president. They, I expect, will go to Robert Mueller and say, you want to interview the president? You can't force a president to testify about things that are not crimes. Collusion? It's not a crime anywhere in the criminal codes. Obstruction of justice? Where's the evidence of that? Hoping that Flynn is cleared?
Has the president's attorneys been too timid?
I think they have been too timid, but it's stopping right now, I guarantee you. I mean, I've known Joe DeGeneva for 25 years.
Same here.
Victoria Tenzing, I'd
hire them in a second.
They're among the top former prosecutors in Washington, D.C. They're experienced. Joe was an independent counsel before. He is the right person to counter the thuggish tactics of Bob Mueller and Andrew Weissman.
All right, what's your take, David Schoen?
Look, it's we've spoken before. This is the special counsel position is unfortunately a position that allows for the greatest abuse possible in our system. There's virtually no accountability. He's given a mandate originally, and that's by Mr. Rosenstein. But once he has that mandate, every single person who he, Mueller or his team, unilaterally decides is interfering with his so-called investigation, or is obstructing it, or has told him what he believes to be a lie, committed perjury, he has the authority under that general mandate, under Regulation 600.04, to prosecute that crime. So even if the person never committed any crime at all, simply by virtue of appointing this fellow as special counsel, he now has the unilateral authority to charge someone with a very serious crime that had nothing to do with the underlying investigation. That's very, very dangerous, and that's one of the many reasons it's so important that you're spending this time to point out who exactly Mr. Mueller is and who his team is. And I'm going to say this also. The conflicts that mark this team are absolutely astounding. The only reason a special counsel is appointed under the statute, of course, is if there's reason to believe a crime was committed, but if specifically there's a conflict of interest within the Department of Justice. How is it that so many members of this team come directly from the Department of Justice?
Where's the second special counsel? All right, let me go to the other aspect, move the ball a little bit, Sarah. All right, we know Brennan and Clapper have lied. You're laughing, Greg. We know they've been proven to be liars. One is hired by fake news CNN, and I guess the soon will be hired. And then after that, they'll hire Stormy Daniels. So this is what, and then they're attacking us, and we've broken more news in a week than they do in a year. So I'm trying to get to understanding here of how these guys, how nobody holds Clapper and Brennan accountable, because I want to know what they know and what they knew and when they knew it.
Brennan's comments, Sean, are not comments from somebody who's just acting crazy and upset because he's being pointed out or his story's unraveling. They're very, very specific, and they're very, very well planned. He has his own disinformation campaign. And the minute he went on the air and started making up these rumors and these accusations that the Russians must have something on President Trump, he knew exactly what he was doing. He is the former head of the CIA. He was trained for this.
Trained to lie?
This is about disinformation.
Trained at disinformation.
That's absolutely it. And then people picked it up and they ran with it. People who are opposed to President Trump. And they're creating a national problem. This is a national security issue. Where is the evidence? I'm going to ask Director Brennan, where is the evidence that you have? Show us.
Maybe they'll make it up in the end.
It's just rumors and lies.
Didn't know liars.
Unfortunately, the 5-year statute of limitation on Clapper's lie ran 2 weeks ago.
How convenient.
It's a shame. Should have been charged, but Obama protected him, and Jeff Sessions didn't take action. Look, Clapper and Brennan are the two instigators of the phony dossier running all over Washington, D.C. and Capitol Hill, running to the media, going to Congress, pushing what they knew was a fabricated document to damage Trump, to destroy him. And they're supposed to be, Clapper and Brennan, apolitical and nonpartisan. They were not.
Last word, David.
We've got to be, vigilance is absolutely essential here. Programs like your program and all other measures here to bring accountability to the process are critical. You're seeing a tidal wave of change if you see accountability from the top. I say this again. My father was an FBI agent. FBI agents have been my hero, but there has never been this kind of accountability demanded before. And that's why people are reacting so viscerally, I think, along with the pure unadulterated hatred and anger about the election.
All right, great analysis, all three of you. Sarah, thank you. David, Greg, good to see you. Thank you. Joining us now, she is the host of the Ingram Angle. You see her every weeknight taking shots at me at 9:59. Laura Ingram, good to see you. By the way, congrats. I've not really said this publicly, but I've said it privately. The show's been such a big hit. Congratulations to you. We're so glad you're on board. Let's get your broad picture explanation, how you see, what you see going on and what should be happening in terms of what the president, in terms of his handling of it all.
Yeah, I think let's start with the staff shakeups. And you hear the other networks and the usual suspects going, wow, this is all this tumult, all these departures from the administration, and they have their big scrolls of names and so forth. They're trying to create this appearance, Sean, of complete chaos in the White House. The president is untethered to any real reality. It's ridiculous. What he's doing is what he should be doing, namely getting the people in place 13 months into this who are going to support his agenda. Of course, they're going to question when that's appropriate, but support his agenda, advance it, especially going into these midterm waters, which are going to be very choppy for the Republicans. That means someone like a Bolton, although he's probably more of a neoconservative than I am. He's more interventionist probably than I am. Bolton is someone who's aggressive. He's not going to...
But he'll serve the president, right, in his agenda.
Absolutely. And the idea that the president's going to take orders from John Bolton is ridiculous. I mean, he didn't take orders from Gary Cohn on the tariffs. I mean, he decided to go his own way on that, and he stayed true to the pledge.
If he took orders, he wouldn't tweet every day and night, because a lot of people have told him not to.
Exactly, and I also think, Sean, when you look at what's happening now with the FBI, and Christopher Wray came out and did that interview with Nightly News. On the one hand, what he said was, I think it was very helpful to the president, because he said, we're not political. I'm not being influenced by the president. We're not being told not to pursue particular investigations. That's not where we are. However, as you've been documenting night after night, and I've been trying to pick up the baton at 10 o'clock, what's happened is a corrosive atmosphere at the top that I think has bled down, and that has hurt morale at the FBI. That has hurt credibility and public confidence, that the upper echelon of these intel agencies and the FBI, they're going to call balls and strikes. They're not going to put their finger on the scale one way or another. Even if they don't like Trump, they like Trump, they like Hillary, they don't like Hillary. None of that should have come into play.
Let me ask you this, because we've been at this a long time. One of your great skills is you're a strategist. You think. You've seen a lot. We can give economic statistics of Ronald Reagan in our sleep.
Yeah.
Politically speaking, Donald Trump is a disruptor, an iconoclast, and he is not going to, he's his own man. He's not going to conform into what the media wants him to conform into being. He wouldn't have been elected if he was that person. So the question is, strategically, knowing there's this deep state, knowing that we're now breaking through on FISA abuses and a fixed investigation of Hillary and special counsel Mueller, what advice would you give him?
I think it's important for him to keep his eye on the prize. For him, it is the economy, a stable, strong foreign policy. But number one, he should stick to his campaign promises. And Sean, this is where I'm going to continue on this tonight on my show. I've been doing it the last couple of nights. This GOP omnibus bill that, I guess he's going to sign, I'm really worried about that. I'm worried about it because it does not adequately fund. It hit the wall. It's like a little pittance, a little scrap of a fence, and it is not what he campaigned on.
I do have some insight on that for you, because I agree with you. And I was like, really? Fund the wall if you want to get reelected for all the Republicans. But there is other monies, as I understand it, that have been appropriated and will be appropriated, and we'll hear about it in the days to come.
Well, yeah, if we lose the House of Representatives in November, ain't going to get any wall. So that's why it was imperative for him to get a permanent funding mechanism. So my advice is, Mueller is going to do what Mueller's going to do. I think he can give great speeches about how this economy is going to continue to hum. We're going to take on China, but this is what's going to happen. We're going to have a bit of an uncomfortable moment with China now because of the tariffs. It had to happen. We had to rebalance trade. It had to happen. But on Mueller, let Mueller do his job. Give great speeches about the importance of a strong intelligence community.
Ignore the news media.
I would ignore the media. Talk right to the American people.
And ignore
Remember
Mueller.
how you got elected, Sean.
I think that's good advice. At the end of the day, elections are won based on vision, on prosperity, if you've been in office, and on peace, and if you keep your promises. I don't think it's any more complicated than that. All the noise doesn't matter.
Yeah, safety. People want a safe society. Law and order. Stop giving breaks to illegal immigrants. Stick to your promises, and you'll do just fine.
All right, Laura, great advice. I think we will see you in 27 minutes from right now.
See you soon.
Thanks for being back with
All
us.
right, thanks.
Congratulations. When we come back, Dan Bongino, Jason Chaffetz, and later on, the Uranium One informant speaks out on camera. Explosive claims about how there is a Clinton investigation going on into that foundation. His first time on camera right here tonight. Straight ahead.